All right, welcome back to Clash of Cultures podcast. This is now episode 4. My name is Steven. I'm with my dad Kelvin. In this relax, bro. In this week's podcast, we're going to be talking about awards, our midseason awards for the end of the year. We're going to talk about the current top college football rankings. The committee just dropped today. Talk about our takeaways from last week and predict next week's games. So just to kind of kick it off, how do you feel about last week, and what surprised you or what stuck out to you last week?
I'll be honest. I think Tennessee just keeps answering questions, right? So they had a really good game against Kentucky, another ranked team, and they keep winning. I continue to have questions about them. I continue to kind of doubt them, but they keep finding ways to win. And I don't even want to say ways to win because they look dominant against Kentucky. They really kind of gave them work. So I got to give mad respect to Tennessee, obviously, and I'm sure we'll talk about it here soon. Like Steven said, this is the day that the College Football Playoff Committee released their top 25. So as you all probably know, by the time you guys get this, Tennessee was ranked number 1. And I'll be honest, I'm just going to give you my hot take right off the bat. I think rightfully so.
Yeah, I think Tennessee definitely deserves to be number 1 this week. They have their best resume. I thought the Kentucky game would be a little bit closer than what it was, but that offense looked really good. That's my first bullet point for this week is Tennessee's offense is the real deal. I mean, I think they're comparable to Ohio State's offense at this point, just with how –
Go ahead. I'm listening to your takes. This is your takes.
Just with how lethal that passing game is right now. And I mean, we'll get into it more, but Hendon Hooker has climbed up the Heisman race. I think 2 episodes ago, I didn't think that he would ever overtake Stroud, but I think the race is getting really close now, especially with how dominant they've been. My second bullet point is it's going to be weird for me to say this because y'all heard me slander this team a lot, but Michigan may be a real threat. And that's just because although Ohio State won by like 20, that Penn State game was a really good game.
So they won by 13.
Okay, well, I know they were up big.
They were up 20 and gave a late touchdown up.
Okay, I stopped watching. It was like 41-20 or something, and I stopped watching.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think the way they dominate, now you have a common opponent. I mean, and again, you can only take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, the Ohio State-Michigan game is still going to be big, but I think Michigan has a real chance to get in the playoff. Really, the conference championship game is going to be that game against Ohio State, and the other game is not really going to matter. Who's leading the other side of the conference right now? I haven't really been keeping up with it.
I think it's Illinois.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm pretty sure it's Illinois leading the West. Obviously, Ohio State, Michigan kind of tied in the East. So yeah, it's kind of like last year. I think we all knew going into the Ohio State Michigan game, whoever won that game would probably win the Big Ten. And I agree it'll probably play out exactly like that. Yeah, Illinois is 4-1 in the conference. In the West, they're leading the West. Purdue's 3-2.
Okay, and then do you have any other bullet points? I have one more, but I'm going to wait until you're done with yours.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that I got to give respect to TCU. I picked them to lose, right, and I continue to pick them to lose. And again, just knowing what we already know, they're not in the top 6 of the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings. But they're an undefeated team, and there's a non-undefeated team ranked above them. Like I said, as we kind of get in the rankings, I'll talk about that much more. But I got to give them guys respect. They have a bunch of quality wins, and they continue, as I said last week when I was making predictions, they continue to play these kind of, and I don't want to say close games, but these tough games, and they keep figuring out ways to win it. So I think they even from me, they deserve a lot more respect than we're giving them right now. And obviously to include the College Football Playoff Committee that has them at 7.
Yeah, TCU is going to be a big talking point in this episode, just like the other, top 7, top 8 teams. But I think as I was watching the college football, the playoff show or the committee show, I didn't realize at their last 5 games, 4 of those teams were ranked.
So you got –
I didn't even realize that.
You got Oklahoma at 18, Kansas at 19, Oklahoma State at 8, and Kansas State at 17. So 4 from the playoff committee, 4 ranked wins. I think does anybody have more?
No. Those teams are Oklahoma's not there anymore. Oklahoma's not ranked that high anymore.
Well, I'm sorry, at the time,
Yeah.
This
At
may
the time,
be I may be looking at the time they played them.
Yeah, at the time they played, they were 4-5, and then they went and beat West Virginia at West Virginia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a big one. And then just my last takeaway from this past week, I don't think this is really considered a hot take, just because I think it's a general statement. It's just something that I think is going to happen. But I think when you look at the Power 5 conferences, so let me just pull up the Power 5 conferences. I think this year, conference championship week is going to be the best like set of conference championship games that we've gotten in a long time. I mean, just because if you look at, go ahead.
So I'm going to disagree, but go ahead. I think rivalry week is going to be big. I don't think conference championship week is going to be as big, especially when you're talking about like Ohio State versus Illinois or Michigan versus Illinois.
When I say like big, I mean as far as playoff implications, because you have the SEC, obviously, who Tennessee or Georgia, one of them is going to be unbeaten, and they're going to play Alabama unless Alabama loses again. Whoever wins that game is going to get in. But then you still have a team who may lose that game and get in. Then you're looking at, let's say, for example, Michigan loses to Ohio State in overtime by 2. And then chaos erupts in college football conference championship weekend. I wouldn't say it's out of the realm that Michigan can get in even with that one loss. It just depends what happens. And then you still got the Pac-12, who you think the Pac-12 is out. You said that, right?
Yeah, I believe they're out.
I don't think they're out. I think Oregon or USC can get in, depending on what happens.
I think Oregon has a better shot than USC. And like I said last week, this is no knock to what Oregon did or what the rest of the resume has been, because they have the potential to have some quality wins. But I think people are going to continue to talk about because all of their quality wins are going to come in the Pac-12, and people are going to look at their one out-of-conference major opponent, and they got absolutely drummed. Like I said, if that was a closer game, I think people would give them benefit of the doubt. But when you lose the way they lost, that's a little tough.
Definitely.
And I think that's going to be held against them.
No, for sure. Moving on to kind of the main talking point of the show, obviously the college football top 25, the week 10 rankings that just dropped. Just kind of briefly looking at it, what stands out to you?
I mean, so I talked about it, touched on it a little bit. The first thing is TCU. When I first saw this, the first thing that really stood out to me is TCU, a undefeated team, like we said, has a bunch of quality wins being left out, especially, and I'm only going to talk about the top 6, but being behind a team like Alabama that has a loss and to me doesn't have the same number of quality wins. Michigan, which really has to this point with Michigan State kind of in a down year, they really only have one quality win, the game against Penn State. And I'm going to be honest, and obviously I'm sitting here in all Ohio State gear, but the resume so far, TCU has more quality wins than Ohio State, right? So I think they're getting a lack of respect. I think this is a Big 12 problem. But TCU, to me, there's no way they shouldn't be in that top 6.
I agree. I think TCU should have been at least at 6. But I mean, I think it also showed me, it kind of, as I was watching the show, I was on the phone with a friend of mine that's an Alabama fan. And I think the first thing that came to my mind was like, the bias is so disgusting to me. Just because like, I get that it's the first ranking, but I mean, to be honest, I'm not surprised they have Clemson over Michigan. I think that was a toss-up, but even seeing Clemson jump to 4 was kind of surprising to me as well, just with how shaky they've looked. But I think, as you said the majority of what you're going to talk about is in the top 6. I think from 7 to 10 is really important, just because I personally think TCU is going to run the table. I don't see them losing. So it's going to be interesting to see where they fall. Now, if you have a team like Ohio State, who, if they lose to someone other than Michigan and then they beat Michigan, or if Michigan loses to someone else and beat Ohio State, then I think or Clemson, for example, if Clemson were to lose, I think it's a no-brainer that TCU gets in. But I mean, if you have 2 undefeated teams, let's just say 2 undefeated teams or 3 undefeated teams, and you have a 1-loss SEC champion or 1-loss SEC team that did not win the conference, they're going to give it to TCU even though they went 13-0. And to me, like that's disgusting. As a college football fan, that's just disgusting.
So, and that's what I'm saying. This is already telling me, like you just pointed out, right? If Alabama runs the table, if Alabama is able to run the table, they're going to get in. right? And that, to me, based off of what we're looking at right now, because I think going forward, Alabama would have the potential to have more quality wins,
Definitely.
to include possibly a Tennessee Georgia SEC championship. So that means that for TCU, a team that's undefeated in a Power Five conference, right? This isn't like old Cincinnati or UCF where we're talking about Group of Five versus Power Five. This is a Power Five conference. We still call the Big 12 a Power Five conference. They still got Oklahoma and Texas in that conference. So in a Power Five conference, you're talking about a team potentially, like you said, running the table and not being in the college football playoff and being bumped out based on, losing out to a team that has a loss. That, to me, that's unacceptable.
No, for sure. I think the only way TCU gets in, if let's say Alabama runs the table and beats, let's just say Tennessee. Let's say Tennessee wins this week and it's Tennessee, Alabama in the championship game. I think the only way TCU, if they were to run the table, Alabama would have to blow Tennessee out and just to kind of leave a bad taste, like recency bias for the committee heading into that final week. But if it's a close game, I think both the SEC teams are going to get in. I don't think. I mean, regardless, I think if it's Georgia or Tennessee, they're both going to get in.
Well, and this is TCU really kind of has to be rooting for whoever that Tennessee Georgia. Well, really, what I think it will boil down to is Tennessee Georgia winner, the team that wins this weekend, also beating Alabama and then giving Alabama 2 losses. Okay. I think at that point they feel fine. But if that Tennessee Georgia winner loses to Alabama, I'll be honest, I don't see, because if you kind of look at it, again, just kind of playing this out, I think Clemson is going to win out, right? That Clemson right now is over TCU. I think they'll remain over TCU because I think they'll win out. Ohio State, Michigan, one of those two, I think is going to win out, right? So that's your second team, right? Whatever happens in the SEC, like I said, if you based it right now saying Tennessee, Georgia, one of those two is going to be in the SEC championship. And now you're talking about Alabama as well being over them, right? And the fact that now we're looking at one-loss teams going over TCU, now you have to throw back into the mix whoever loses the Ohio State Michigan game, whoever the SEC team on the other side. Again, if Alabama was able to beats Tennessee or Georgia, the SEC championship loser, especially let's just say it's Tennessee, like you said, right? Let's say Tennessee beats Georgia this weekend and loses to Alabama by 3. I think Tennessee probably gets in over TCU. So TCU, and this is where I'm saying it's unfortunate. An undefeated team that has to pray for other teams' downfall versus just being able to take care of their schedule.
Yeah, and like I said, you said you're going to talk a lot about the top 6. I mean, I think we already talked about number 7. Like I said, I think Oregon and USC still have a good shot. I think even if they were to win out, they still need a lot to happen ahead of them, which can happen. Yeah. I mean, maybe not an Ohio State, Michigan scenario, but I think Clemson could lose against Notre Dame. I think they can lose against South Carolina. It's a rivalry game. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened with how Clemson has looked so far. I could see Alabama losing this week to LSU. I could see them losing to Ole Miss next week. I could see them losing in the SEC championship game. Then you still got Tennessee, Georgia. One of them is going to lose. TCU could lose at any point. I think a team that really needs to be talked about that is outside the top 10 is Ole Miss. I think they are a dark horse to get in, but I mean, they still play Alabama. They play Arkansas and Mississippi State. If they beat Alabama next week, then they play against undefeated Tennessee or undefeated Georgia in the conference championship game. And if they win the SEC, they're in. They got to be in.
So that's a good point. I think people aren't going to talk about them or haven't talked about them, kind of based on their loss at LSU. They didn't look great. I don't think teams or people believe that. Now, and again, the ability to kind of control your own destiny is very real for Ole Miss, but you're talking about them beating Alabama and, again, that Tennessee Georgia winner. I don't see that happening.
I don't either. But I'm just saying it is an opportunity.
They control their own destiny, right? If they were able to win out, they are definitely in the playoffs. I would feel comfortable betting against them winning out.
Same. moving on to kind of veer away from the college football playoff, let's talk about mid-season awards. So what we did this week, we decided to compile a list of 7 different awards, just the major awards, on basically who we think is going to win, why, and just kind of the current race. So who do you have? We'll just start off with the number 1 award. Who do you have winning the Heisman, and who do you have as your runner-up?
Yeah. So, and I'm basing this where we are right now. And listen, I am the biggest CJ Stroud fan in the world. He is who I have second. That's my runner-up. But I got to give it to Hendon Hooker, especially with the big win against Alabama, the big numbers put up against Alabama, the big numbers put up against Kentucky. And let me say this: if he's able to repeat that this weekend, I think he will start to distance himself from CJ in that argument. If Tennessee wins and he has a 300-yard, 4-touchdown game, even if CJ kind of blows the doors off of it the rest of the season, the fact that Hendon did it against Alabama, Kentucky, and then at that point Georgia, to me puts him in the driver's seat for that award. So again, I have Hendon in the lead right now. I have CJ as the runner-up.
Okay, wait. So this is your projection. So you think Hooker's going to win and CJ Stroud's going to be the runner-up?
Yes.
By the end of the year?
Yes, but this is all because I think this is very open to changing, right? And I'm saying he has the opportunity. To me, this is Heisman weekend, right? This is the weekend, but I think by Sunday I will have a clear view of who's going to win the Heisman, right? After the game Saturday, I think if he has a great game, I think it's over. I think it's all but over. Obviously, the SEC championship game, but I think it's all but over. If he doesn't have a great game, then I think it's probably over in the opposite direction. And CJ then has a clear path to win it. Yeah, so I think he's going to have a good game.
Yeah, I have it flipped the other way. I have Stroud as my winner and Hooker as my runner-up. But I based mine. I mean, if the season ended today, I think Hooker gets it. And I don't think it's close. I mean, he has good stats. He has all the notable wins. But I think this week. I think Georgia wins this week. We'll get into that later, but I got Georgia winning this game. And I think CJ Stroud has a big game at the end of the year against Michigan, which is going to end up making him win the Heisman with Hendon Hooker coming in second. But like you said, this is going to be the decider, whether who gets it or not. But I mean, at the same time, let's say Hooker plays bad and they lose, and then Stroud plays bad and Ohio State loses to Michigan at the end, then it opens right back up. So, I mean, really it's not the end all be all, but I mean, in a sense it is, because I think if Hooker has a big game this week, I think it's all. And I'm
going to say this. I think Tennessee can lose, but Hendon Hooker have a really good game. And I think he still kind of puts himself in the driver's seat for the Heisman.
Okay. And then, so moving on to our next award, I'll go with this one. This is the Maxwell. This one, I chose Stroud just based off the stats, just because the numbers that he's putting up right now. And I think at the end of the day, the numbers are going to favor Stroud when you're looking at season statistics. Even if, Hooker wins, if he goes all the way to the championship game, he's not going to have the numbers that Stroud has. And let's say they go undefeated and lose in the championship again against Tennessee, he's still going to have better numbers than Hooker at the end of the day. So I chose Stroud for this award, for the Maxwell, and Hooker as my runner-up.
Yeah, so I flipped it here, and I kind of went back and forth with this. Maxwell is another Player of the Year award. It has not always been the same as the Heisman. There are years where it has been. So in this instance, I'm going to flip this. I think Stroud at the end of the year is going to have better numbers. I think Hendon Hooker may have to the committee, especially the Heisman committee, what looks like more marquee games as they talk about that Heisman moment. But I think his numbers may still or will still fall behind Stroud. And so I got Stroud winning the Maxwell with Hendon Hooker number 2.
Okay. And then for this one, I had Stroud winning this one as well. So I'm pretty sure I had Stroud with the clean sweep.
Okay. Of the Walter camp?
Yeah. So Heisman, Maxwell, camp, I had all 3 of them going. Now, obviously, barring this week, we'll see. But I already talked about Stroud, so I'm not even going to say his stats again. That's why I'm winning this one.
Yeah, I have them 2. the top obviously two for all three of these awards. And that's normally how you see that, two or three people kind of winning these awards. So this I have Hooker again because I think it's going to come down to moments. And I have Hooker winning the Walter Camp as well.
Who do you have? I think I know who you have, but who do you have winning the Walker Award?
So the Doak Walker, I hate saying this even out loud, but first let me say I have two Big Ten running backs.
Okay.
Obviously, Blake Corum is getting all the love, and I have him winning, and I have Chase Brown as the runner-up.
Okay, I have Blake Corum winning, but I have Muhammad Ibrahim as a runner-up. So it's kind of crazy. We have three Big Ten running backs there with the opportunity for the Lombardi Award. I chose for this one. This one was kind of tough. Because I didn't know if I wanted to go off the stats, if I wanted to go off of impact. So I chose Will Anderson. I feel like that was a safe pick. So I got Will Anderson. And my second pick was, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but I don't even know if I spelled it right. Tui Tuipolito.
Who is that?
I got you. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing it right.
Tui Tuipolito. Okay. You went off the reservation there.
Give me a second. Who do you have for yours while I look that up?
So I have Will Anderson winning as well. So what this is interior lineman. It can be offensive or defensive. So I'm sorry, not interior. Lineman, offensive or defensive. So I have Will Anderson, who gets designated as a defensive end, and I have Paris Johnson. Obviously, I watch more Ohio State games than anybody. Big offensive lineman for Ohio State has given up no sacks so far this season. So I have Paris Johnson as the runner-up. I have Will Anderson in first.
Okay, hold on. Let me find him. I can't find his name.
Yeah, I don't know who does he play for?
I want to say he was on USC.
Right, yeah.
He's a defensive lineman for USC. Tui Pulotu, 6'4", 290 defensive lineman. Let me see if I can pull up the sacks. There we go. So this year he had 3 sacks against Washington State. 1 second. There we go. So he has 18 tackles this year, 12.5 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and he has 7 sacks this year. I wanted to use somebody else. I think Will Anderson's going to get it, so I just gave somebody else some love that I didn't really know.
And sometimes these are popularity contests, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the best player doesn't necessarily win.
Okay, so moving on to the next one. You can take this one off. The Biletnikoff Award. Who do you have that one?
Yeah, so again, this is probably me being a little bit of a homer. Obviously, I think the other name in it is going to be Jalen.
I already know we have the same two.
But I have Marvin Harrison number 1.
Oh, never mind.
Who'd you have in Buka?
I had Hyatt at 1 and Buka Buka at 2.
Okay, I have Harrison at 1. And again, so part of this is me projecting. And I think at the end of the day, especially Harrison has been the more consistent wide receiver. Now, right now, Buka has more yards. But Harrison has just been consistent. And I think he's the more unguardable wide receiver. And I think he's going to be the one that puts up more yards. And then I think really what we're going to need and really what's going to set him apart, just like Jalen Hyatt kind of had that wide receiver moment against Alabama, I think what's going to set Harrison apart is he's going to have that wide receiver moment against Michigan. So, some big game against Michigan.
Yeah, I think this one is the most out of all of these awards. I think this one I am most comfortable with saying Hyatt's going to win it. I think with what he's shown in the first 7-8 games has been crazy. And I'll be the first to say I didn't know Jalen Hyatt existed before the season started. I did not know him. And I watch a lot of college football. You watch a lot of college football, but that means that none of the casual fans knew who this guy was. And now he's pretty much a household name as far as college football goes. How old is he? Is he a sophomore, junior?
Hold on, I'm about to look it up.
Because I'm assuming he's probably going to be a first, second round pick now, and he wasn't even known going into this.
So he's a junior. His freshman year, he had 20 receptions, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns. His sophomore year, 21 receptions, 226 yards, 2
AKA
touchdowns.
nothing.
And then this year so far, 45 receptions, 907 yards, 14 touchdowns.
He's averaging 20 yards a catch.
Yeah. And like I said, so now the Harrison and Buka, you're talking about a 5-yard difference. Harrison has 783. I think Mbuka has 788. But Harrison has 3 more touchdowns.
Yeah, I think
I love them both. So
yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's kind of a popularity contest, and I think, I mean, I can name multiple Ohio State receivers. I can't name you multiple Tennessee receivers. I don't know anybody else, so that's his go-to. And I think Ohio State, with their running game, having 2 good backs, having 3 or 4 good receivers, I just think by the end of the year, it's going to be dealt out kind of more evenly. I don't think it's just going to go to one guy. So I think regardless, even if it was Harrison or Egbuka, how do you pronounce his name? I don't think they're going to be able to produce what Hyatt produces, especially with that one game against Alabama. I think that right there was the bow on the top. I don't think that anybody is able to close that gap. And like I said, I think this award has already been signed. It's done. I don't think unless he gets hurt, which obviously nobody wants that, but unless he, for some reason, doesn't play the rest of the year, he could have mediocre numbers the rest of the year. I think he gets it. I don't think it's close at this point anymore. Okay. But moving on to the last award, and this one you can go in so many different directions. I'll let you go first. Who do you have as your coach of the year and runner-up?
Yeah, so coach of the year is hard, right? But I'm going to go with 2 coaches, both right now leading undefeated teams that I don't think we would have thought would be leading undefeated teams at this point. So I'm going Josh Heupel at Tennessee, the Tennessee coach, and I'm going Sonny Dykes, TCU coach. Again, I think that's just 2 teams that I wouldn't have picked to be undefeated. I wouldn't have picked them to win their division, let alone be where they are at this point. So those are my 2 coach of the years. I have Josh Heupel as the coach of the year, and Sonny Dykes is the runner-up.
Yeah, so I mean, this one was kind of easy for the winner. Josh is definitely going to get it. I mean, unless they lose like 2 or 3 games towards the end of the year, but I think he's definitely going to get it. I have a different runner-up. I had Jim Harbaugh. The reason why I have Jim Harbaugh is because, mind you, going into episode 1 and 2, I was not high on Michigan. I'm still not very high on Michigan, but I mean, they've showed me something. Unless they get blown out by Ohio State, I think even if they barely lose, stop. Don't press that button.
No.
Okay. Just wait, just for the viewers at home that don't know this, he has a stupid no button that he presses. And he thinks it's funny. That's why I said that.
No.
Yeah, so that's why I said that. But I think he's the runner-up. But I think this award is just as close as the Hyatt Award, just because Tennessee. What did Tennessee start off at this year?
Oh, I can't even. They may not have been ranked. I don't know. I'm sure they were ranked.
They were definitely ranked. They started off they were not ranked. Preseason did not have them ranked, and they're number 1 now. Like, I feel like that right there is all you need to, unless they get blown out this week and lose a couple more games. I feel like that award is already delivered as well.
Which, let me say, I don't see either one of those happening. Now, I'm not going to say I don't see them losing this weekend. I don't think they'll get blown out. And even if they do lose this weekend, I don't see them losing a couple more games.
For sure. Okay, so kind of we already briefly talked about who we thought was going to win the Heisman. But just to kind of detour a little bit more towards that. So you said right now you have Hendon Hooker winning with CJ Stroud in second. Do you have any other names that could make a running in late, or do you feel like that it's just those 2?
No, obviously Blake Corum's in the conversation. I think we got to talk about Max Duggan and what he's doing at TCU, the TCU quarterback. He's putting up tremendous numbers. And he's a guy that we really haven't talked about much. But leading an amazing pass offense and leading an undefeated team, right? And like I said, we're at a point now we got to start giving TCU some love. So he's at over 2,000 yards, over 20 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Like I said, do I think he's going to win it? No. As you can see, obviously, by the college playoff committee, there's the Big 12 is going to have a hard time overcoming the fact that they're in the Big 12. But I think he's a name that we got to talk about. And I think at the end of the day, what I do think is he gets a New York invite.
So there's 3 that go to New York, right?
Oh, so it's up to 5. So normally what they'll do is they'll draw a line if there's a big drop right in.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's up to 5. It's normally 3. But if 5 are close, then they'll invite 5.
So I think with the names of Stroud and Hooker, I don't think that it's going to be close. I think they're probably only going to invite 3. But my third name, which I don't think that you're even thinking about.
If you say DJ, I'm
no.
Okay.
Stop. Relax. I think my third, but he is from the ACC. I think.
Are you going to say May?
I think Drake May, like I mean, I would say dark horse isn't even a word for it because he's not even a dark horse at this point. But
I mean, yeah, because I thought before the season May was going to have a good season. I thought May was
now
a good quarterback last year.
He has 2,600 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, 3 picks, completing 71%, and he has 3 touchdowns on the ground with 400 yards rushing. I think if North Carolina wins out 11-1 and they beat Clemson in the conference championship, he has to get an invite at that point. Obviously, if he plays good in the conference championship game, he plays good. But I also think he needs some help. I think if Hooker looks bad this week, or if CJ Stroud sells a game, I think that'll help his Heisman candidacy. But I mean, I think right now it's the 2 guys up top. And I don't think Corum's close unless Corum goes for 300 yards 3 straight games. I don't think he's close.
Let me say this: if Corum has again a Heisman moment against Ohio State and he runs for 250 yards, because I think between now and the Ohio State game, Michigan kind of has some games where, you know, if they really get into it, they could run up some yards. And, you know, if they wanted to, they could have. But I think at the end of the day, because they got Rutgers, Nebraska, they have Illinois late, but Rutgers and Nebraska, that Illinois defense is pretty good. But if he goes 400 yards in both of those, he's going to have the numbers. But I think the thing that's going to be held against him, or really what his litmus test is going to be, is that Ohio State game. If he has good games, good numbers in those games, and then he busts Ohio State for 250, then I would not be shocked if he wins it.
No, for sure. So moving on, just to kind of pull, not that one, just to kind of pull this back up while we're talking about this. So this is another little quick segment. This was going to be a quicker show. He's running on about 3 hours of sleep. So
because somebody decided
this week is going to be a little quicker.
It didn't.
But so what we're going to do, we're going to give our top 4. This is our projections. So not right now. Our projections on who we think the semifinal matchups are going to be, and then who's going to win those matchups, who's going to match up in the championship, and who's going to be the eventual winner. So we're going to kind of go tick for tack back and forth. So who do you have as your top 4 in order at the end of the year after all the pieces settle? Who's your top 4 in order?
So my top 4 is Alabama
at 1.
Clemson. No. I'm sorry. I'm going 4-1. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Alabama at 4, Clemson at 3, Georgia at 2, Ohio State at 1.
Okay, so you had Alabama. So you had Ohio State at 1.
Yes. Ohio State 1. Yes. Clemson, Alabama.
Okay, so I have Ohio State at 1, Clemson at 2, TCU at 3, Alabama at 4. So I think
Alabama's going to be Georgia.
So I think what's going to happen is I think Georgia wins this game against Tennessee. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be a close game. And then I think Alabama's going to beat Georgia convincingly in the SEC championship game. I think Alabama's going to look really good in that game. But because they had that loss, I don't think they're going to be higher than 3 undefeated teams, which is going to be, I think TCU is going to look really good the rest of the year. And I think they're going to look at these rankings. And I mean, just looking at their schedule, they play Baylor, who I think they can handle Baylor. Let me pull up the rest of it just to make sure I have it listed up. So they play Baylor, Texas should be a good game, Texas Tech, and they play Iowa State. And in the Big 12 championship game, they're either going to play Oklahoma State or they're going to play Kansas State. So I think this is my projections. Obviously, I could be completely wrong. But I think as of right now, I think TCU is going to look really good the rest of the year. I don't think they're going to jump Ohio State and Clemson, but I think they're going to have the resume because they're going to play a ranked Texas and they're going to play a ranked conference championship game, obviously. I think they're going to look really good at that point. They're going to have as good as resume as anybody in the country, and they're going to be undefeated. So I'm going to have them jumping Alabama even though Alabama is going to beat undefeated Tennessee or undefeated Georgia. So that's who I have as my matchup. So my matchups are going to be.
Oh, go ahead. So let me explain mine because so I have it running pretty much. I don't want to say par for the course, but I have Ohio State obviously winning out and beating Michigan. I have Clemson winning out and beating Michigan, right? So it's kind of weird. Why do I have Georgia at number 3? And I went back and forth with this. I mean, at number 2, I have Georgia beating Tennessee this weekend.
Wait. Number 1, you had Ohio State. Number 2, you had Georgia.
Yes. Georgia, yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying this is why I have Georgia at 2, and Alabama getting in, which is kind of weird. But I have Alabama beating Georgia in the SEC championship in a close game. And I think because Georgia at that point in time would have beat Tennessee, it's either going to be because I went back and forth and I could have flipped them though. I could have flip-flopped them, right? But I think the SEC bias, and I think what they're going to try to do is they're not going to want.
They're going to make them avoid each other.
Yes. So I looked at, and again, maybe I'm probably over nuking this, right? Mm-hmm. But I tried to make it where they had to avoid each other, so they didn't play each other again, right back to back. So that's how I kind of came up with. I think they're going to have, and it could have been Alabama the same, but they're going to have one team jump Clemson, literally just to make them avoid each other.
So on your 4, I think they would have Alabama at 2 though. Because they would have the head-to-head over Georgia. That's the only reason why I would say that. But I mean, I can see that.
But see, and then it becomes this 3-way thing, right? Because then Georgia beat Tennessee, Alabama lost to Tennessee, so it's kind of a weird.
Yeah, they mess around and put 3 of them in the damn playoffs.
Yeah, and that was.
Wow, I'll never watch college football again, boy. So you have your matchups are Ohio State versus Alabama.
Yeah, so I have Ohio State winning that game.
Okay, a close game, a blowout. What do you think?
Mediocre. I think it's close just because Alabama has been there so many times. Nick Saban has been there so many times. I think it's tough to blow Alabama out. But I think Ohio State gets it done. We could say 10.
Okay, so you have Ohio State going to the championship. Then you have Clemson, Georgia. I'm assuming you have Georgia winning that game.
I have Georgia winning that game.
Close or blowout?
And I think that's so to me, those are very similar teams. I am.
Now that you say that, I actually see that. That's a very similar team. Their offense both sucks, but their defense is good.
and so when I look at it, the only really kind of difference is I think Bennett is a little bit better than DJ, especially in those pressure-packed moments. They've been there before. You got Brock Bowers, who to me is probably one of the better weapons on the outside. Again, and I'm comparing Clemson versus Georgia. I think that's a very close game. But again, I think my concern is, especially having watched the Syracuse game, which to me was Clemson in the prime time, is who's the quarterback and how do they play when them lights are when hey, this is the big stage now. And I think Stetson Bennett has done that. He's been there and he's performed well in those moments.
So you have Ohio State, Georgia in the championship. Don't tell me who wins.
Yeah,
that's what you have.
Well,
okay.
I mean,
Okay, relax. Okay, so my top 4. Number 1, I had Ohio State. Number 2, I had Clemson. Number 3, I had TCU. Number 4, I have Alabama. So in the 1 versus 4 matchup, I have Alabama beating Ohio State. Close.
Well, almost disowned.
Now, I think that's going to be a close game. I have Clemson beating TCU in a close game.
I knew this was about to be some bullshit.
Listen. Then I have Alabama and Clemson matching up again for the 4th time in a championship game. You'll be the 4th. We lost 45-40. We won 35-31, and we won 44-16. I have Alabama winning the championship game against Clemson. I think Alabama is still a really good team, but I think Clemson makes it to the peak. Although all the adversity and all the nonsense, I think they make it to the championship, but I think they lose to Alabama ultimately. So that's who I have winning it all, Alabama right now. Who do you have winning the Ohio? Or no, you have a comment?
No. So the tough part is, so I have Ohio State winning it all. I have Ohio State beating Georgia. But the tough part is simply this. You really have out of those. Ryan Day is the one coach that really hasn't been there, right? When I'm talking about the 3 coaches, and you're talking about the 4 powers, really right now of this time period. Kirby Smart obviously just went on the run last year.
You got Tennessee, who hasn't as well, though.
Well, so I didn't have Tennessee in my 4. I'm just
talking.
You're
right. No, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just talking about these 4. 3 of the 4 have a national championship. So I understand your Alabama pick only from this, because I think Alabama has looked really bad at times this year. Mm-hmm. But I think Nick Saban just knows how to right the ship, and that's concerning. Going against a Nick Saban team, and even if you look at the Tennessee game, really Alabama had ample opportunities to win. Do I think Nick Saban allows that moment to happen again? Those games, those pressure-packed situations, and he's not ready? Absolutely not. So my concern with Ohio State is Ryan Day hasn't been on that stage. None of these players, the last time we were in the playoffs, we weren't in the playoffs last year. The last time we were in the playoffs, Justin Fields was our quarterback.
Ryan Day was the coach, though.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm saying he wasn't in the championship.
Okay.
Yeah, but so CJ Stroud hasn't been on this stage. So you're talking about Bryce Young has been on the stage. You're talking about Stetson Bennett, like I said, has been on this stage, has been in that championship game. So we'll see. And maybe part of it is my optimism as an Ohio State fan. I think every year I think they're going to win it. But because I think when it all comes down, I think we have the most talent, and we're the most balanced offense to defense, especially. And again, I think what a lot of people are missing, we still are without not only our number one receiver, but what arguably coming into the season was the number one receiver. So this offense could hit another level.
No, for sure. I think, like I said, we could both be severely wrong.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's what I think. That's what you think. So we'll just have to see towards the end of the season. But moving on to the home stretch of this week's episode, like we always do, we're going to predict this week's top 25 games. So I'll let you kick it off with number 25 UCF at Memphis.
Yeah, so UCF, a team that just lost, well, not just lost, but they lost to ECU 2 weeks ago, beat Cincinnati last week. I think, again, when we're talking about 25, it's always pretty tough. I got a friend, Jace Wheeler, who's the biggest UCF fan in the world. I think if I didn't pick UCF, he'd probably fly to my house. So I'm going to go UCF, even though they're at Memphis. I think they have the ability to win this game, and I'm going to pick them 35 to, and I think it's going to be close. Memphis is pretty decent, so I'm going to go 35-30.
Okay. Before I get my pick, I just realized something. Did you get a chair?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you act like you don't know how to act. You ain't here like this. And normally I was like, wait a minute, something looks different. I have UCF winning this game as well. I have them winning 38-27. I don't know much about either of these teams, to be completely honest, so I just went with the ranked team. So I'm going to say 38-27. They went up by 11 points at Memphis. Moving on to the next one. I do have a few upsets this week. There's a lot of games, but I do have a few upsets.
Yeah, so do I.
Moving on to the next one. I'll take this one. Number 23, Oregon State at UW. This is going to be my first, quote unquote upset. I wouldn't call it an upset because I think Washington is better than Oregon State. But I have Washington winning this game 23-17. I think the home field advantage is going to help them out a little bit. And I don't think Oregon State is that good. So I'm taking Washington by 6.
Yeah, like I said, when you're down kind of this low, and I'm not saying low, 23 is still decent, especially for Oregon State, who's not normally here. But Washington, I think, is has the ability to be a power in college football, and they have those seasons. So I got Washington, especially at home, as well.
Also, their quarterback is leading the country in passing yards, and he's having a good year.
Oh, you're talking about so the transfer from Indiana, and he had a really good season 2 seasons ago, or maybe 3 seasons ago at Indiana, where he was kind of in a Heisman talk early. But yeah, almost 3,000 yards passing. So yeah, he's a heck of a quarterback, left-handed.
I did not know he's left-handed. Moving on to the next one, you got this one. Number 21, Wake Forest at number 22, NC State.
So the big thing here is is the Leary injury, and Wake Forest having Hartman, and Hartman's just playing good football. So with that, even though they're on the road, and like I said, I think we gave credit to that NC State defense last week. They kind of let us down. I'm going to go Wake Forest, and I think this is, I don't want to say a shootout, but I think Wake Forest and Sam Hartman is able to put up some points. So I'm going to go 45-23.
I have a little bit closer. I mean, I don't have a super close, but I have Wake Forest winning as well. I think Sam Hartman's going to be the difference. ESPN has this game 59% to 41%. And they actually have NC State as the favorite. That's crazy. I don't think NC State.
Really?
NC State's a favorite. They are a. Oh, another. That's weird. So they don't have them as the favorite, but according to ESPN Analytics, they're the favorite. That's kind of odd. I've never seen that. So
Okay.
Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a 4.5 point favorite, but on the percentage wheel, it has 59% for Wake. I mean, 59% for NC State, 41% for Wake. But all in all, I have Wake Forest winning 37-20. So I have it a 17-point game, and I think Sam Hartman has a really good game.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next one, number 20 Syracuse at Pitt. So this is another ACC matchup, another ranked ACC matchup. I have Syracuse winning 40-21, bouncing back after 2 losses to Clemson and Notre Dame. I think they kind of turn the ship back around and get back on the winning track. At this point, I don't believe they even have a chance at going to the ACC title game, which kind of sucks for them because they've had a good year. But I have them winning 40-21.
Yeah, so I watched that Notre Dame game, and Syracuse did not look good. I don't think Notre Dame is that great of a team, and Notre Dame was literally running the ball right down Syracuse's throat for most of the game, and Syracuse didn't seem to be able to stop it, which I was actually kind of surprised at. So I'm going to pick Pitt. I got Pitt winning this game because I think they're going to follow that. I think Syracuse is kind of reeling, right? I think confidence is big, especially when you're talking about young men. And I think they're they're losing their confidence. I think they went into that Clemson game believing, hey, we can be on the field with these guys. You lose 2 games back to back, and now they're kind of reeling. So I'm going to go Pitt, and I'm going to go 30-20.
30-20. Okay, so moving on to the next one. Number 19 Tulane at Tulsa. I'll let you take this one.
So again, two teams that I'm not super versed on, but Tulane going to Tulsa. Very simple. I'm going to pick Tulane. I think Tulane puts up points. So I'm going to go 45-20. I think they're going to beat Tulsa pretty bad.
I have this game a 3-point game. I think Tulane's going to beat Tulsa by 3, 30-27. I don't care if Tulane is ranked number 10. I mean, I feel like the gap between these two are not big. I think Tulane's is having like a Kansas type year where they're making a lot of noise, but in reality, their recruits are the same. Their talent is pretty much even. So I think at any given day they can lose to anybody in their conference. So I'm gonna pick Tulane winning, but I'm gonna pick them winning by 3, 30-27.
Okay.
I hope it's a close game, but we'll see. I'm probably not going to watch it, so I don't even know why I said that. But moving on to the next one. Number 18, Oklahoma State at Kansas. This game, Kansas, like I just talked about, are kind of having an odd year. They started off really strong. I think they've lost 2 games since, or 3.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, they're 5-3.
Yeah,
now.
they're 5-3. Yeah.
So I mean, in their last 3 games, they've lost to Baylor, Oklahoma, and TCU. All those teams are obviously better teams than Kansas. So it kind of sucks. And heading into this week, they're going against another team who is obviously better than them, recruit wise. So I'm going to go Oklahoma State and Spencer Sanders winning 55-38. So 3-point game, 3 touchdown game, or 3 possession game, 55-38.
Yeah, so I was big on Oklahoma State, and I thought they were really doing something there. But man, they have laid some goose eggs, and that loss to Kansas State where you get blanked 48-0. I think that's kind of, and I think they come out a little bit better than that. But I think the Kansas team is real. I think the quarterback Daniels is a legit quarterback. I think they just ran into some teams that recruited and were better than them. So I'm going to pick Kansas to win this game. Like I said, there was something to me that was concerning about the way Oklahoma State looked against Kansas State. I don't think you just come back on the field and right the ship when you can't put up in the Big 12, right? And we continue to talk about how bad defense is in the Big 12. You couldn't put up a single point. So I got to go with Kansas in this. Obviously, I think Oklahoma State scores. I don't think the score is as bad as it was last week for Oklahoma State, but I think it's 42-35 Kansas, especially at home.
So close game. Okay, moving on to the next one. Number 17, North Carolina at Virginia. Who do you have winning this game?
So I have North Carolina winning this. And we talked about May. I think North Carolina is just a better team. Very simple. No need to get deep into this. I think North Carolina is going to kind of run this up a little bit. So I have them winning 49-20.
Okay, I have them winning as well. And as we previously talked about Heisman race, I think Drake May has another big game. I have them winning 32-13. So not a huge win. But I think that I still have them winning convincingly against Virginia. Virginia's 3-5. Tony Elliott's over there, and he hasn't really made a difference yet. So if you don't know who Tony Elliott is, he's a previous offensive coordinator for Clemson, but he just left to go coach over there, and he hasn't really done anything. But moving on to the next one, Michigan State at number 16, Illinois. So this is going to be my first significant upset. So I have Michigan State winning this game, 38-35. So a very close game. I'm not super sold on Illinois. They're a good team, but I think Michigan State can compete with them. As of right now, Illinois is a 16-point favorite. I don't think they cover 16 points. That's almost 3 possessions. That's a lot of points to win by. And I get that Michigan State is 3-5, but I still think recruit for recruit, Michigan State can compete with them. I have Michigan State winning 38-35 in a really close game.
Yeah, so I have Illinois simply because, again, I think, first of all, Illinois defense is playing great. Second, I think momentum and confidence is key. I think Michigan State is down, right? They got dumped by Ohio State. They just got beat down by Michigan. Obviously, and you guys seen they lost another 4 players due to the fight after the game. I think everything seems to be snowballing against Michigan State, while on the opposite side, everything seems to be snowballing to the positive for Illinois, right? Illinois, I would have not expected to be, what's the record, 7-1?
Yeah.
Illinois, 7-1. Chase Brown is legit already at 1,200 yards. I think this is a grounded, pounded out type of game. So I have it 28-20, but I got Illinois winning at home.
Okay, moving on to the next one. I think that's going to be a pretty good game. Hopefully it's a good game. Moving on to the next one, number 15, Penn State at Indiana. I'm assuming you have Penn State. Go ahead and give your pick. Why?
Yeah. So, I'm picking Penn State. And I'll tell you guys, early, I think Penn State is going to win out. Only because I think Indiana's not a great team. But I don't think Penn State is great. I think in some of these other conferences that had maybe a better middle of the road, Penn State would have lost more games. Fortunately, they're probably gonna get out of the Big Ten, which actually is a little down this year. Like I said, due to Michigan State being down, due to, again, Penn State being down a little bit, Nebraska being down, some of these teams that we need to be good being down. So I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win it convincingly. But at the end of the day, I don't think Penn State is a great team. Like I said, yes, they played Ohio State close for 3 quarters. But it seemed like whenever Ohio State wanted to turn on the gas, they were able to pull away quickly. So, yeah, I think Penn State wins. I don't think they're a great team. I'm going to pick them to win 28 to – again, I think Indiana's bad, so I'm going to pick it 28-7.
You think they're only going to score 28 points?
Yeah, I don't think that offense is good.
I haven't watched much of them besides the 2 games, and they're playing against the top 5 teams in the country. I have them winning by a lot more. I have them winning 48-17. I think it's going to be a little bit bigger margin of victory just because I think in the Big Ten you have 3 good teams, well, 2 really good teams, and then Penn State. Illinois is decent. Minnesota's
Wisconsin's
decent.
Down.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are not very good, so I think them compared to the rest of the teams, they're still a lot better than the rest of the teams. So I have them winning 48-17. Moving on to the next one, Another upset I have here: Arizona at number 14, Utah. I think Jaden Delora and Arizona goes into Utah and wins a shootout in overtime, 41-38.
So we obviously went to the Utah game which it was last Thursday, but
And they almost
we were there
lost.
last weekend. So the thing that makes this game hard to pick is obviously Cam Rising didn't play, and I don't know why. And I don't
Did they
think it
even
ever
announce
came out.
anything?
Yeah, so the coach just said he is unavailable and would not disclose anything else. So I don't. So it's hard for me to pick this game when I don't know if the starting quarterback is going to play. So with that, and because of that, because I basically have to kind of make up information, I'm going to assume that Rising has some sort of suspension due to something team related or whatever, because he didn't seem to be injured. He was fully dressed out. And I think Arizona. I'm going to go with Arizona in this because I don't know the Utah quarterback situation. That makes this game very hard to pick. The Arizona quarterback, what's his name? Delora? How do you say it?
Yeah, Jaden Delora. He's from Hawaii. For people who didn't
From
know, he's from
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah, we watched him play in high school, and he's having a pretty good season.
He's nice. He's actually really good too.
Turnovers have been a problem, but I mean, 22 touchdowns is 22 touchdowns. So I'm going to pick them to win. I think, and again, this gets hard because I think Utah's offense without Rising, as we saw against Washington State, I don't think they're that good. With Rising, they looked much better. So it's hard for me to pick a score, but I'm going to go 42-30.
Okay, and just for people, so like I said, or like my dad said, we went to the Washington State Utah game last week. And for those of you that don't know, Utah was ranked last week. I think they were ranked 14. They might not have moved.
15 maybe?
They were right around there. Washington State is not ranked. So the entire game, after the first quarter, I'm talking about my plan on how I'm going to storm this field with these fans. the entire game and how I'm going to get content for the channel. But they ended up losing late in the game, so we weren't able to do that. But that would have been fun. But moving on to the next one. Number 24 Texas at number 13 Kansas State. Who do you have in this game?
Yeah, so I don't know if I would call this an upset, but I have Texas winning.
Hey man, we got the same picks.
At Kansas State, I think with Quinn, with Bijan Robinson, with Xavier Worthy, I think they just have better players where it matters. So I have Texas winning. And again, I think this is one I feel pretty confident about. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. So I'm going to go 32-27.
Okay, I have Texas winning as well in a high scoring game. I'm predicting overtime, just like my last game. I have them winning 51-48. So I have them winning big. I'm not big. I have them winning a big scoring game. But moving on to the next one, number 12 UCLA at Arizona State. This one is kind of an easy one for me. I'm choosing DTR and UCLA. I have them winning 38-10 pretty convincingly at Arizona State.
Yeah, same. I don't think Arizona State's that good. I think DTR and I think UCLA kind of get right the ship, right? Obviously, we saw the Oregon loss. And I think they want to stay in the thick of that Pac-12 championship talk. So yeah, I have them winning. And I have them winning kind of big, kind of convincingly. I'm going to go 55-20.
Okay. Moving on to the next one. We have Cal at number 9 USC. Who do you have?
So I have USC. So USC needs a win. They need to, and again, we're talking about, just like I said with UCLA, you're talking about two teams that not only have a loss that they're trying to overcome, but they're going to need, the Pac-12 as a whole is going to need to do some kind of pleading to the committee as they're a little bit down in the rankings, even for one-loss teams. I think USC does that. I think they do that very big against Cal. I'm going to go 56-30.
You think Cal's going to score 30?
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's because it's a high-scoring game. I don't like that USC defense. You remember?
I haven't watched any Cal.
Yeah. You remember Utah was kind of going up and down the field on them, so that's why I don't necessarily feel like. And that was where I based that off of. That defense is not great.
I have USC winning big too. I have them winning 54-17. I think they have a big game. I don't think Cal is good at all. They're a 21-point favorite, and it's at USC, so I do have them winning. Moving on to the next one. These next few are kind of duds, but I have number 8 Oregon at Colorado. I have Oregon winning this game big, 49-13. Again, as we talked earlier during the rankings, I think both of these teams, they're not completely out of the playoffs. They really have to look damn near perfect to round out the season, and they need a lot of chaos to ensue ahead of them.
Yeah, so Colorado is a 1-17. Oregon, like you said, if they are going to make it in, first of all, obviously they need some things to happen above them. But second, and I think what really takes precedence in this game is they know that they need to kind of make their mark, especially in games like this. I have them winning 58-0.
Yeah, I can see that too. Moving on to the next one. Texas Tech at number 7 TCU. Who do you have in this game?
So I have TCU. And we talked about the reasons. And I think, again, this is a situation where a coach goes into a locker room and tells his team, hey, we've been disrespected. And that's going to fire this TCU team up. I think they're going to be out the rest of this season to prove a point. And I think they're going to start really kind of trying to run it up for those committee points against some of these teams. So I have this as a big game. I have this 49-21.
Okay, I have TCU winning as well. And like I said earlier in my projections for the final rankings, as I said, I had them at 3. I think they're going to win every game. I think they're going to win every game convincingly. I think the only close game might be that Baylor game. But I think they're going to win 59-10 this week against Texas Tech. I think it's going to be a blowout. But moving on to the last couple of games, a few of these games are pretty interesting. Yes. Number 6, Alabama at number 10, LSU. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking on this one just because obviously it is better than the last 3 we just covered. But this game to me is obviously you have the other SEC game, which we're going to talk about last, which is going to be arguably probably a game of the year. Maybe Ohio State, Michigan is going to be a really good game. But this game is going to be very good. I think this is going to be a really good game. I have it very close. Just like I said, I want to say it was last week. Who was going into LSU, and I said that I thought they were going to struggle. I said something about it was somebody. Who was it? I'm about to tell you right now. It was Ole Miss. It was Ole Miss going into LSU, and I said there's something about going into Death Valley at nighttime that just doesn't sit well with me. But with that being said, I do think LSU plays a really good game here, but I do have Alabama winning in Death Valley, winning 34-30. But I think this game is going to be another big win on Alabama's resume. I mean, LSU moved all the way up to a top 10 spot, which I didn't think was going to happen. I mean, damn, on week 1, we did disappointments, and they were on your disappointment list, and now they're in the top 10. I don't think anybody guessed this. So, I mean, and they have 2 losses, I think. So, I mean,
so the top
I think
this
right here, this could really change everything for college football if LSU wins this game. Because if LSU wins this game, I think the SEC gets blown up. Because then, realistically, Tennessee and Georgia could both get in the championship in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Because I think whoever wins the Tennessee-Georgia game, they could win the SEC championship. And let's just say Tennessee loses to Georgia close, they could still be in the top 4 at the end of the year. So I think if LSU wins this game, they could blow everything up for the committee. They can make it really hard on the committee. But I do have Alabama beating LSU.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've talked a number of times of how I kind of think the end of the year is going to pan out. So obviously I have Alabama winning this game, but you know, and to Steven's point, LSU has really impressed me. So they went from a team that I had major concern with to a team that I think is playing ball. They've looked really good in some of these late games, minus the Tennessee game. But I think these are the situations that Alabama was made for, that you have a Bryce Young, right? Jaden Daniels, the quarterback at LSU, hasn't been in these situations, right? With the bright lights, outside of, and like you said, outside of that Tennessee game, this is the game that people are going to be watching on Saturday. And I want to see it. I want to see LSU, like I said, the number one ranked 2-loss team, and really kind of if you look at that ranking, they're above a bunch of 1-loss teams. They're above Ole Miss.
So I just thought about this. Sorry to cut you off. I just thought about this scenario. If LSU beats Alabama, hypothetically, they beat Alabama, they'll probably move up to 7 or 8. Right? Hear me out.
Because they got to move above Alabama.
Now they have a win over. That means they'll have a win over Ole Miss and Alabama, which means they'd have the tiebreaker for the SEC West.
Yeah,
I could see a world where LSU. Listen to me. Let's say they're 7 or 8. Let's say they beat Alabama this week, right? If they beat Alabama, you'd have them at 7 or 8, right? That's fair to say.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what happens the rest of the weekend.
So they beat Alabama. They're 7 or 8. They go to the SEC championship game, beat number 1 Tennessee or number 1 Georgia. They got to be number 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Let me say this:
that would be crazy.
Again, if they win out, but this is where I say it's tough. I don't see a world in which I put a 2-loss team in over an undefeated team.
Okay, so
now
think about undefeated teams. So it would be Clemson, Ohio State, and TCU. Nobody else can go undefeated. There's nobody else that can.
Right. But okay, so now you're talking about putting them in over, let's say, now what do you do with Tennessee? Let's say Tennessee loses to Georgia, doesn't go to the SEC championship. Do you put them in over Tennessee?
I think you have
a 1-loss team? A 1-loss team?
Especially if they beat the number 1 undefeated team in the country and they won the SEC.
It's tough. I don't know.
That would be a crazy scenario.
Is it possible? Yeah.
That would be a crazy scenario.
I would say they have to feel good about where they would be, especially if you win the SEC. I don't think an SEC champion has not been in the playoffs since the playoffs have started. So, yeah, I'm going.
I want that to happen so bad. I want it to happen so bad. That would be crazy. But moving on to the next one. Sorry, we spent a couple minutes there, but I just thinking about it, just sitting here. But moving on to the next one, number 5, Michigan at Rutgers. I'm gonna do this one first, just because it's gonna be a blowout. I got them winning 52-0. I don't think Rutgers scores, and I think Blake Corum has a big game. I don't think it's really gonna matter in the Heisman race because it's Rutgers, so it's not really gonna matter.
Yeah, let me say I'll stick 52-0. I had it 50-0, but 52-0 sounds good. That sounds better. Yeah, I think they're going to run it up against them.
Okay, you do this one first. Number 4, Clemson at Notre Dame.
Yeah, so Notre Dame, I watched that Notre Dame Syracuse game, as I mentioned earlier, and Notre Dame really impressed me. I again, as the obvious answer is, I think Clemson's going to win, right? I have them in my top 4, so I think they're going to win. But I think this is going to be, as Clemson has kind of allowed this year, I think this is going to be a very close game. I think this is going to be a 1-possession game. I think this is going to come down to the last minute. I think it's going to be, I'm going to go 35-28, Clemson. And I think Clemson gets a touchdown late. Minute left, whatever the case may be, to win the game. I think this is kind of the rebirth of DJ. He's going to have a good game, and he's going to lead them on a game-winning drive.
So DJ is going to have a good game, but he's not going to lead them on a game-winning drive because they're going to win by 21 points.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
I have Clemson winning 45-24. I've been notorious on picking closer matchups, closer games, results. When we've done this,
yeah, you have.
But I think going into this week or coming off the bye week, having a little bit more time to rest and recover and getting some people back healthy. I think DJ is going to settle back in as a starting quarterback. Obviously, they pulled him late against Syracuse, and Syracuse and Cade came in and won the game. I think DJ is going to have a great game. I think they're going to ride Will Shipley to the finish line. I think he's going to have a big game as well. But I have him winning 45-24, and I think this is going to be our first. I'm not even going to call it a signature win, just because Notre Dame isn't really.
They're a name, though.
They are a name. And I just think it's going to be a big win to kind of solidify us as that 4 team. But now, would I be surprised if we lost? No, I would not be surprised because
I understand Notre Dame.
Damn near every game we've lost. So we just like we're 8-0 right now, we could be 4-4. So I mean, it is what it is. But I have them winning 45-24. Moving on to the next one. I'll let you take this one. I'll take this one first.
Yeah. I mean, this one's pretty
Ohio
simple.
State at Northwestern. I got Northwestern winning 35-30. I'm just kidding. I got Ohio State winning 58-10. I got them blowing them out.
So I think what's going to happen here is I think CJ also knows that in terms of, because let me say this very quickly. I don't think there's a way that Northwestern beats Ohio State. But I think there's more in the play here. I think CJ knows that Hendon Hooker is about to have a big game down in Georgia. He knows that his Heisman's on the line. I think he tries to go for something like 7 or 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm not even going to put a score. It's going to be a lot too little.
Bad. Yeah, it's going to be bad. Alrighty, and to round out the show, I'm going to let you do this one first. Number Tennessee at number 3 Georgia. Who do you have?
Yeah, man, and I started this show saying, "Hey, it's about time for me to believe in Tennessee." I think at the end of the day, what this boils down to is the game is at Georgia. I feel like if you look at least the Alabama game, which again would have to be a team that we say is at least on par with Tennessee, is on par with Georgia. That game was at Tennessee, and I think that helped them. This game is at Georgia. Athens is going to be rocking. I don't think Tennessee, especially in recent history, has really seen anything like how Athens is going to be. All the attention is going to be on this game. And again, I think what this boils down to is a coach that's been there. Kirby Smart has seen it from being a coach at Alabama to his national championship run last year. And we're talking about Josh Heupel and a Tennessee team that they, outside of the Alabama game, which was under lights, but you're at home. All of those, all of that pressure was friendly. Now it's going to get ugly. It's going to get nasty. It's at Athens. And now your guys have to deal with that noise and everything else that comes with playing in that hostile environment in a big time game. I picked Georgia. I think Tennessee is going to put up a heck of a show. As I said, I think Hendon Hooker is going to go for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a heck of a game. But I think Georgia just finds a way. I think maybe a key turnover, maybe a key play here or there. Brock Bowers breaks. But I think they just find a way. And the crowd goes wild. And I think it's going to be a close game. I have it 31-27.
31-27. Okay. This game, I too choose Georgia. I think Georgia has got, it's kind of weird. Georgia's like in the same realm as Ohio State. They've gotten that weird, like, even though they've beaten people still talk about them. And I mean, every team really has that. But I think Tennessee's the only team that hasn't really gotten that treatment. And that's just because they've beaten so many good teams. But I have Georgia winning 37-24. I think they're gonna be up 30-24, and then I think Georgia's gonna score late. I think Georgia's gonna force a few turnovers. I think that's gonna be the difference. Georgia is probably the best defense in the country. I mean, you got Clemson, you got Alabama, but I think Georgia is the best defense in the country. And I think Hendon Hooker is gonna be forced to really make plays. I mean, obviously against Alabama, there was a lot of like blown coverages and not really any adjustments being made. I don't think a Kirby Smart led defense is, let's say Hendon Hooker bombs with Hyatt on the first possession. They're going to fix that real quick. They're going to make him read defense.
Well, there's tape out now.
Yeah, they're going to make him read defense, make quick reads. They're going to pressure him. I think the Georgia front is going to be a little bit too much for Tennessee. And I don't know how good Tennessee's running game is, but I know Georgia's front seven is nasty. Now I know they just lost their linebacker for the year. Georgia did. Nolan Smith, I think his name is.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's out for the year, but I still think overall Georgia's going to be too much for them, and I think it's going to be a one possession game the entire game, but I think they're going to pull away late. So I do have Georgia winning. And eventually, obviously, winning out and going to the SEC championship game. But this one is going to be a good game. We're probably going to kick off the show next week, starting with this. And just to kind of let everyone know, since I was, dealt the bad hand for next week, my dad is going on vacation. So next week, we haven't decided yet. I'm either going to have someone on the show with me, or I might just do a solo show. But we will figure that out. But as always, Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the new videos that's coming. We just posted a NBA top 25. We're gonna record here in about 2 hours or so. He has to go take a nap because he's hurting. But
because I've been up since 4:45 because we were supposed to tape this already, and then you flake on me last minute.
So we're gonna record an NFL offensive players top 25. So that one's gonna be coming after this one. But keep an eye on that. Share the podcast, share the channel. Keep showing support. We're gonna keep pushing out content for you guys. But as always, we will catch you guys later. This is Steven and Kelvin from Clash of Cultures. Peace out.
All right, y'all.